Alexander Chen never thought his father's death would come with strings attached. But here he was, sitting in a leather chair that probably cost more than most people's cars, staring at an attorney who had just delivered the most ridiculous news of his life. "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" Alexander asked, even though he had heard it perfectly the first time. Mr. Thompson, his father's attorney for over 20 years, adjusted his glasses and looked down at the thick document in front of him. "Your father's will states that in order to inherit his estate, valued at approximately $50 million, you must be legally married within 7 days of this reading." Alexander let out a laugh that sounded more like a cough. "You're joking." "I assure you, I am not." The room suddenly felt too small. Alexander stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. Cars moved like tiny ants. People rushed to wherever they needed to be, completely unaware that his entire life had just been flipped upside down. His father, Richard Chen, had died 2 weeks ago from a heart attack. It was sudden, unexpected, and Alexander was still processing the loss. They'd had a complicated relationship. His dad was old school, built his fortune from nothing, started with a small restaurant and turned it into a chain of high-end hotels across the country. He believed in hard work, discipline, and apparently marriage. Why would he do this? Alexander asked, still facing the window. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. "Your father left a letter explaining his reasoning. Would you like me to read it?" Alexander turned around. "Yeah, I think I need to hear this." The attorney pulled out a smaller envelope and began reading in that careful, measured tone lawyers always use. "Alexander, if you're hearing this, it means I'm gone. I know this condition seems harsh, but everything I did in life was to teach you something. I married your mother when I was 25, and it was the best decision I ever made. Marriage taught me responsibility. It taught me what it means to put someone else first. It gave me purpose beyond just making money. You're 29 now, son. Same age I was when I opened my third hotel. But you're still living like you're in college. I've watched you avoid commitment, avoid settling down, avoid growing up. I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing this because I love you. The money means nothing if you end up alone. If you can't find someone to marry in 7 days, then frankly, you're not trying hard enough. The money will go to charity, and maybe that will teach you the value of what really matters. I hope you prove me wrong. I hope you find what I found with your mother. Love, Dad." Alexander dropped back into his chair. His hands were shaking. 7 days. 1 week to find someone willing to marry him or lose everything. "What if I don't?" he asked quietly. "What happens to the money?" "It will be distributed among several charities your father supported. The Children's Hospital, the homeless shelter downtown, and a scholarship fund for underprivileged students." "Great. So if he didn't get married, he'd be the guy who took money away from sick kids and homeless people. His father really knew how to back him into a corner. Is there any way to contest this? Challenge it in court?" Mr. Thompson shook his head. "Your father anticipated that question. The will is ironclad. I helped him draft it myself. Multiple witnesses, psychological evaluation proving he was of sound mind, the works. You could try to fight it, but it would take years and cost millions in legal fees with almost no chance of success." Alexander rubbed his face with both hands. This couldn't be happening. He had a life. He ran a tech startup that was finally starting to gain traction. He had friends, hobbies, plans. Getting married wasn't even on his radar for at least another 5 years. 7 days, he said again, just to make sure he'd heard right. 7 days from today. The ceremony must be completed and the marriage license filed with the state by 5 p.m. next Friday. Alexander left the attorney's office in a daze. He walked 3 blocks before he even realized he was walking. His phone buzzed in his pocket. It was his best friend Kevin. "Dude, where are you? We're supposed to meet for lunch." Alexander had completely forgotten. "I'm on Market Street. Just left the lawyer's office. How'd it go? Everything straightforward with the will? Can you meet me at that bar near my place? I need a drink and I need advice. It's 1 in the afternoon. I really need that drink." 20 minutes later, they were sitting in a dark booth at O'Malley's, and Alexander was explaining the situation to Kevin, who looked like he wasn't sure whether to laugh or call a psychiatrist. "Your dad put a marriage clause in his will? That's insane. Tell me about it." "But also kind of genius in a twisted way." Alexander glared at him. "Whose side are you on?" Kevin held up his hands. "Yours, obviously. I'm just saying your dad was always about making a point. Remember when he made you work as a dishwasher at his restaurant when you were 16, even though he owned the place? I remember. He wanted you to understand the value of work. This is the same thing. He wants you to understand the value of commitment by threatening to take away $50 million. Hey, I didn't say it was subtle. Alexander downed his whiskey and immediately ordered another. His mind was racing through possibilities. 7 days wasn't enough time to meet someone, fall in love, and get married like a normal person. This would have to be different, unconventional. What if I just asked someone to do it? He said out loud. Like a business arrangement. Kevin raised an eyebrow. You mean like hiring someone to marry you? Not hiring exactly. More like a mutual agreement. I get the inheritance, they get a nice payout, we get divorced after a year or whatever the minimum is to make it look legitimate. That's fraud, man. Is it though? We'd actually be married. Legal ceremony, signed paperwork, everything legitimate. The will doesn't say I have to stay married forever. Just that I have to be married. Kevin leaned back in his seat thinking. I mean, technically you might be right. But finding someone willing to do that in 7 days? That's a whole other problem. What about dating apps? I could be upfront about it. Some people might think $50 million is worth a year of their life. Yeah, and you might also attract every scammer and gold digger in a 100-mile radius. Plus, your family would have to believe it's real, right? Otherwise, they might contest the will anyway. Alexander hadn't thought of that. His sister Lisa would definitely be suspicious. She knew him too well. And his mother, who was still devastated by his father's death, would be heartbroken if she found out he'd faked a marriage just for money. This is impossible, Alexander said, putting his head in his hands. Maybe not, Kevin said slowly. What if it wasn't a complete stranger? What if it was someone we knew, someone who needed help with something and you could help each other? Do you know anyone who needs to get married in the next 7 days? No, but I know people who know people. Let me make some calls. In the meantime, you should probably tell Lisa what's going on. She deserves to know. Alexander groaned. His sister was going to have a field day with this. Lisa was 2 years younger, worked as a social media manager for some big company and had always been the responsible one. She'd been happily married for 3 years to her high school sweetheart. She was going to think this whole thing was hilarious. He was right. When he called her that evening, she laughed for a solid minute. Oh my God, Dad really did that. That's so him. It's not funny, Lisa. I have less than a week to find a wife. It's a little funny. Come on, you have to admit the old man got you good. He got me completely screwed is what he did. Lisa's tone softened. Alex, maybe this is a good thing. When was the last time you even went on a date? You're married to that startup of yours. Maybe Dad had a point. Not you too. I'm just saying, would it really be so bad to try? Like actually try to meet someone? In 7 days? People have gotten married faster. Remember Mom's friend Janet? She got married 3 days after meeting her husband at a conference. They've been together for 15 years now. Alexander knew she was right, but the pressure of it all made his chest tight. This wasn't how life was supposed to work. You were supposed to meet someone naturally, date for a while, fall in love, and then make a decision about marriage. You weren't supposed to be forced into it with a ticking clock and millions of dollars on the line. Look, Lisa said, I might know someone. My coworker Rachel has a roommate who just went through a really bad breakup. She's nice, she's pretty, and she might be open to meeting someone new. No promises, but I could set up a coffee date or something. Lisa, I can't exactly lead with, hey, want to get married for money? So don't, just meet her. See if there's any connection. You never know what might happen. After he hung up with his sister, Alexander sat on his couch staring at the ceiling. His apartment was nice. Too nice for someone who still ordered takeout 5 nights a week and couldn't remember the last time he'd used his dishwasher. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city lights twinkling in the darkness. Everything in his life looked perfect from the outside. Successful business, nice place, good friends, supportive family. But his dad had seen through all of it. He'd seen that Alexander was hiding, keeping people at arm's length, avoiding anything that felt too real or too permanent. His phone buzzed. A text from Lisa. Her name is Sofia Rodriguez. She's a pediatric nurse. I told her you're a nice guy going through a tough time and could use some company. She said she'd meet you for dinner tomorrow night if you want. I'm sending you her number. Alexander stared at the message. Tomorrow night. Less than 24 hours from now. He didn't even know what this woman looked like. what she was interested in, whether they'd have anything to talk about. But he was running out of time and options. He saved the number and typed out a message. "Hi, Sophia, this is Alexander. Lisa probably told you I'm her brother. Would you be free for dinner tomorrow around 7? I know a quiet Italian place downtown." The reply came faster than he expected. "Sure, Lisa says you're not a serial killer, so I'll take her word for it. See you at 7. Alexander smiled despite himself. At least she had a sense of humor. He had no idea what he was going to say to this woman, how he was going to explain his situation, or whether she'd think he was completely insane, but he had to try. The clock was ticking and he had 6 days left. Alexander changed his shirt 3 times before the date. He told himself it didn't matter what he wore, that this was just a meeting, nothing serious. But his hands kept shaking as he buttoned and unbuttoned collars, trying to find something that didn't make him look too desperate or too casual. He settled on a simple navy button-down and dark jeans. Professional but not stuffy. He checked his watch for the 100th time. 6:30. He needed to leave now to get to the restaurant on time. The drive across town felt longer than it should have. His mind kept running through possible conversations. How do you tell someone on a first date that you need to get married in 6 days? There was no smooth way to bring that up. "Hey, nice weather we're having, by the way. Want to be my wife by Friday?" He was catastrophizing. Lisa had told him to just be himself, see if they connected at all. Maybe Sophia would be terrible. Maybe they'd have nothing to talk about and he could cross this option off his list and move on to plan B. Whatever that was. The restaurant, Antonelli's, was tucked away on a quiet side street. Alexander had been coming here for years. The owner, an old Italian guy named Vincent, knew him by name and always gave him the corner booth in the back where it was quiet. Tonight he needed quiet. He arrived 10 minutes early and sat down, his leg bouncing nervously under the table. He ordered a glass of wine and tried to look relaxed. The restaurant was half full, couples talking in low voices, the smell of garlic and fresh bread filling the air. Normally this place calmed him down. Tonight nothing could calm his nerves. At 7:05 she walked in. Alexander recognized her immediately, even though he'd never seen her before. She was looking around, slightly uncertain, wearing a simple green dress and carrying a canvas bag over her shoulder. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail and she looked tired, like she'd just come from a long shift. He stood up and waved, probably too eagerly. She spotted him and walked over. "Alexander?" "Yeah, Sophia, right? Thanks for coming." They shook hands awkwardly, then both sat down. There was a moment of silence that felt like an hour. "So, Lisa didn't tell me much about you," Sophia said, picking up her menu. "Just that you needed to meet someone who isn't going to judge you for whatever you're going through. That's Lisa, always selling me as a charity case." Sophia smiled a little. "She also said you're not a serial killer, so that's good. My standards are pretty low right now. Rough day, rough month. Rough year, actually." She looked at the menu, then put it down. "Sorry, I shouldn't dump on you right away. That's not a great first impression. No, it's fine. I'm not exactly bringing my A game either. I've checked my watch like 15 times since I sat down. Nervous? Is it that obvious?" The waiter came by and took their orders. Sophia ordered the mushroom risotto. Alexander got his usual carbonara. Once the waiter left, there was another awkward pause. "So what do you do?" Sophia asked, clearly trying to keep the conversation going. "I run a tech startup. We're developing software for small businesses to manage their inventory and sales." "Exciting stuff," he said with a self-deprecating smile. "Sounds complicated." "It is. But I like solving problems, building things from scratch. What about you?" "Lisa mentioned you're a nurse." "Pediatric nurse at Children's Memorial. I work with kids who have cancer mostly." Alexander felt a wave of respect. "That must be really hard." "It is. But it's also the best job in the world. Those kids, they're so strong, so brave. They teach me something new every day about not giving up." Her face lit up when she talked about her work. And for the first time since she'd sat down, she looked genuinely happy. They started talking more naturally after that. Sophia told him about a 6-year-old patient who'd made her a bracelet out of hospital bands. Alexander told her about the time his software crashed during a major presentation, and he had to improvise for 20 minutes while his partner fixed it backstage. The food arrived and they kept talking. Movies came up somehow. Sophia admitted she had terrible taste, that she loved action movies where things blew up and nobody worried about logic. Like that one with the guy driving cars out of planes, she said, gesturing with her fork. I know it's ridiculous, but I've watched it 3 times. The physics in that movie make no sense whatsoever, Alexander said. I know. That's what makes it great. You just turn off your brain and enjoy the chaos. Alexander found himself laughing, really laughing, for the first time since his dad's funeral. There was something easy about talking to Sophia. She didn't try to impress him, didn't ask about his money or his family connections. She was just herself, tired and a little guarded, but genuine. But in the back of his mind, the clock kept ticking. 5 days left. 5 days to find a wife or lose everything. He looked at Sophia, the way she smiled when she talked about her patience, the small scar above her eyebrow that she kept touching when she was thinking. Could he ask her? Would she think he was insane? He was so distracted by these thoughts that he didn't notice the waiter bringing the wine bottle until he reached for his water glass at the same time. His hand hit the bottle, knocking it sideways. Red wine splashed across the white tablecloth, spreading like blood. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Alexander jumped up, grabbing napkins, trying to stop the flow. The waiter rushed over with towels. Sophia started laughing. Not a polite laugh, but a real full laugh that made other people in the restaurant turn and look. It's not funny, Alexander said, but he was laughing too. The whole situation was absurd. Here he was, trying to figure out how to propose marriage to a stranger, and he couldn't even manage to keep wine in a bottle. They cleaned up the mess together, both of them still grinning. Vincent came over personally to apologize and brought them dessert on the house. These little chocolate things that melted in your mouth. So tell me, Sophia said, taking a bite of chocolate, what's the thing you're going through? The thing Lisa said I wouldn't judge you for? Alexander's smile faded. This was it. The moment where he either told her the truth or made up some story. He looked at her face, open and curious, and he couldn't lie. It's complicated. Most important things are. He took a breath. My father died 2 weeks ago. Oh, Alexander. I'm so sorry. Thank you. We had a complicated relationship, but I loved him. And he in his own weird way loved me too. He paused. The thing is, he left me his inheritance. But there's a condition. Sophia waited, not pushing him. I have to be married within 7 days of reading his will, or everything goes to charity. He watched her face carefully. Her eyes widened slightly, but she didn't laugh or get up and leave. That's wow. That's a lot. Yeah. How much time do you have left? 5 days as of today. Sophia sat back in her chair. So this dinner, is this you trying to find a wife? No. I mean, when Lisa suggested meeting you, I was desperate enough to consider anything. But then we started talking and I forgot about all of it. I forgot about the will and the deadline and everything. I just enjoyed talking to you. You made me laugh. You made me feel normal for the first time in weeks. She was quiet for a long moment, processing everything. I appreciate your honesty, she finally said. That took courage to tell me. I figured you deserved to know the truth. I'm not trying to trick anyone or manipulate anyone. I'm just in an impossible situation and I don't know what to do about it. They finished dessert in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable anymore. It was the silence of 2 people thinking, considering possibilities. Walking out of the restaurant, Alexander offered to drive her home. She accepted. The drive through the city at night was peaceful, streetlights casting everything in a warm glow. They didn't talk much, but it felt okay. When he pulled up to her apartment building, an older complex on the east side, Sophia turned to him. Thank you for tonight. For being honest with me. I know that couldn't have been easy. Thank you for not running away when I told you. I thought about it, she said with a small smile. But then I remembered I took the bus here and it would have been awkward to run away and then wait for the number 7. They both laughed. Can I see you again? Alexander asked, surprising himself. Sophia looked at him for a long moment. I don't think that's a good idea. His heart sank. Right, of course. I understand. You're in a complicated situation and I just got out of one. I don't think we should mix those things up. You're right. I'm sorry. Thanks again for coming tonight. She got out of the car and Alexander watched her walk to her building. Just before she went inside, she turned and waved. He waved back, then drove home feeling more alone than ever. His apartment was dark and empty when he got back. He threw his keys on the counter and collapsed on the couch. 4 days and counting. He pulled out his phone and started searching for solutions. Marriage services, quickie chapels, anything. But every option felt wrong. Cold. transactional in a way that made him feel sick. Around midnight, he fell asleep on the couch with his phone in his hand. He was woken up by pounding on his door. Confused and groggy, he stumbled over and looked through the peephole. Sophia was standing in the hallway. He opened the door quickly. "Sophia, what are you doing here?" It's like 2 a.m. She was still wearing the green dress, but now she looked agitated, nervous. She was holding a piece of paper in her hand. "Can I come in?" "Of course, yeah, come in." She walked past him into the apartment, pacing back and forth in his living room. He closed the door and waited, his heart racing. "I couldn't sleep," she said. "I kept thinking about what you told me at dinner. About your father's will and the deadline. Sophia, you don't have to. Just let me talk, okay? I need to say this before I lose my courage." She took a deep breath. "When I got home tonight, this was taped to my door." She held up the paper. "It's an eviction notice. My ex-fiancé, the one I broke up with 3 months ago. He was supposed to pay his half of the rent. He hasn't paid anything in 4 months. I'm $8,000 behind and my landlord is done being patient." Alexander didn't know what to say. "I'm a pediatric nurse. I make decent money but not enough to cover double rent plus all the back payments. I've been trying to figure it out, picking up extra shifts, but it's not enough. I'm going to lose my apartment and I don't have anywhere else to go. I'm so sorry. That's terrible." She stopped pacing and looked right at him. "At dinner, you asked if this was you trying to find a wife. The answer was no, but what if it should have been yes?" Alexander's mind went blank. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I have a problem." "You have a problem. Maybe we could solve them together." She was talking fast now, like if she slowed down, she'd change her mind. "You need to get married in 5 days. I need money to get my life back on track. What if we made an agreement? A business arrangement. We get married this week, stay married for however long we need to, and then we go our separate ways. You get your inheritance, I get enough money to pay off my debts and start over." Alexander stared at her. This was exactly what he'd suggested to Kevin yesterday, but hearing it out loud from someone else made it feel real and terrifying. "How much would you need?" he asked quietly. $3 million. He almost laughed. "That's very specific." I did the math on the bus ride home. $8,000 for back rent, $50,000 for my nursing school loans, another $20,000 for credit card debt my ex left me with. That's about $80,000 to clear all my problems. But then I thought, why should I only ask for enough to break even? This isn't just about solving my immediate crisis. This is about my future. $3 million would let me actually build something. Maybe open my own clinic someday. Help kids who can't afford medical care. Actually make a difference instead of just surviving. Alexander walked to his window, looking out at the city lights. $3 million was nothing compared to $50 million. It was 6% of the total. A bargain, really. But this was someone's life they were talking about. A year of pretending, of lying to everyone they knew. "My family would have to believe it's real," he said. "My sister, my mom, they can't know it's fake or they might contest the will." "I understand. We'd need a contract. Legal protections for both of us. I'd expect nothing less." He turned to face her. She was standing in the middle of his expensive apartment in her nurse's scrubs under her dress, holding an eviction notice, offering to marry him. It was the most insane thing that had ever happened to him. "Why are you really doing this?" he asked. "It's not just about the money." Sophia's eyes got bright like she might cry, but she didn't. "Because my ex-fiancé made me feel worthless. Like I wasn't enough. Like I'd never be enough. And when you told me about your situation tonight, instead of running away, part of me thought, here's someone who's honest about needing help, who doesn't pretend to have all the answers. And maybe if I can help you, if I can solve this impossible problem with you, I'll remember that I'm not worthless, that I'm capable of more than just getting hurt and running away." Alexander understood that feeling more than she knew. His father's will had made him feel inadequate, like he'd failed at something fundamental. "Okay," he said. "Okay. Let's do it. Let's solve our impossible problems together." Sophia let out a breath she'd been holding. They stood there in his living room at 2 a.m. Two desperate people who'd just made the craziest decision of their lives. "We should probably shake on it or something," Sophia said. Alexander held out his hand. She took it. Her grip was firm, the hand of someone used to saving lives. "Welcome to the chaos," he said. She smiled, tired and scared and determined. "It can't be worse than what I've already been through." They had no idea how wrong she was. The next morning, Alexander woke up on the couch and for a moment thought he'd dreamed the whole thing. Then he saw Sophia asleep in his guest room through the half-open door, and reality came crashing back. They'd stayed up until 4 in the morning hammering out the details. The contract would be simple: marriage for 1 year minimum to satisfy the will's requirements. $3 million transferred to Sophia's account after the marriage was official, and the inheritance cleared. Separate bedrooms, professional boundaries, and a clean divorce at the end with no drama. It all sounded so logical at 2 in the morning. Now, in the harsh light of day, Alexander wondered if they'd both lost their minds. His phone rang. Lisa. He almost didn't answer, but she'd just keep calling. "Hey," he said, his voice rough from lack of sleep. "So? How was the date?" Rachel said Sophia seemed nervous but excited. Alexander walked into his kitchen, speaking quietly so he wouldn't wake Sophia. "It was good. Really good, actually." "Just good? Come on, give me details." "Lisa, I need to tell you something, and you're probably going to think I'm crazy." There was a pause. "Okay, now I'm worried." "What did you do?" "I'm getting married." Silence. Then, "I'm sorry, what?" "To Sophia. We're getting married this week." "This week?" "Alex, you met her yesterday. Are you having some kind of breakdown? Is this about Dad?" He could hear the concern in her voice, the edge of panic. "I know how it sounds. But I really like her, Lisa. We connected. And with the will deadline, I don't have time for a long engagement. She understands the situation and she's willing to help me." "Help you? Oh my God, did you tell her about the inheritance?" "I was honest with her, yeah." "So she knows you're about to inherit $50 million and suddenly she's ready to marry you after one date?" "Alex, come on. You're smarter than this. It's not like that. She's not after the money. Everyone's after the money. That's how the world works." Alexander felt defensive, which surprised him since this whole thing was supposed to be a business arrangement. "You don't know her. You don't know what she's been through." Lisa sighed heavily. Okay, let's say this is real. Let's say you both actually want this. Mom is going to have questions. A lot of questions. You guys need to have your story straight. We do. We're saying it was love at first sight that we both knew immediately. And you think Mom's going to buy that? People get married fast all the time. You said yourself Mom's friend got married 3 days after meeting someone. That was different. They were older, more mature, and it was the 80s. Lisa was quiet for a moment. "But I guess if you're really sure about this, I'll back you up. You're my brother. I just hope you know what you're doing." After he hung up, Alexander made coffee and started going through his contacts. He needed a lawyer who could draw up both the marriage contract and handle the inheritance paperwork. He needed a wedding venue that could accommodate them on 4 days' notice. He needed rings. The whole thing felt surreal, like he was planning someone else's life. Sophia emerged from the guest room around 9, looking tired but determined. She changed back into her scrubs from the night before. "I need to go home and shower, get some clothes," she said. "And I have a shift at noon. You're working today? Don't you want to call in sick or something? We have a lot to plan." She shook her head. "I can't miss work. Those kids depend on me. We can plan around my schedule." Alexander admired that about her. The way her patience came first even in the middle of her own crisis. "Okay. I'll pick you up after your shift and we can go ring shopping." Ring shopping. Sophia said it like she was testing the words. "This is really happening, isn't it? Unless you've changed your mind." No, I haven't. I'm just processing." She grabbed her bag. "I'll text you when I'm done at the hospital." After she left, Alexander called his lawyer, Robert Chen, a distant cousin who'd helped him set up his business. The conversation was about as awkward as expected. "You want me to draft what?" Robert asked. "A prenuptial agreement, and a separate contract outlining the terms of the marriage." "Alex, I'm a corporate lawyer, not a family law attorney." "And did you just say you're getting married? Since when are you even dating anyone? It's complicated. Can you help me or not?" Robert sighed. "Yeah, I can help. But this sounds sketchy. You're not doing anything illegal, are you?" "No, everything's above board. I just need to protect both parties." "Both parties? You mean you and your bride-to-be who I didn't know existed until 30 seconds ago?" "Exactly. I'll have something drafted by tomorrow morning." "But Alex, as your cousin and your friend, are you sure about this?" Everyone kept asking him that. Was he sure? No, he wasn't sure about anything anymore. But he was out of options and out of time. That afternoon, Alexander met with Mr. Thompson again to go over the requirements for the will. The marriage had to be performed by a licensed officiant, witnessed by at least 2 people, and the certificate filed with the county clerk. Straightforward enough. I have to ask, Mr. Thompson said, looking at Alexander over his glasses. Are you getting married because you want to or because you feel you have to? Does it matter? To your father it would have. He wanted you to find what he had with your mother. Real partnership, real love. Alexander thought about Sophia, the way she'd laughed when he spilled the wine, the way her face lit up when she talked about her patients. Maybe that's what I'm doing. You just can't always see it from the outside. Mr. Thompson smiled slightly. Fair enough. Bring me the marriage certificate by Friday at 5 and the inheritance is yours. Alexander picked Sophia up from the hospital at 7. She looked exhausted, the kind of tired that goes bone deep. She climbed into his car and leaned her head back against the seat. Rough day? One of my patients, Tommy, he's 7. He's been doing so well with his treatment. Today we found out the cancer's spreading. His mom just broke down in my arms and I didn't know what to say to make it better. Alexander didn't know what to say either. He just drove, letting her have the silence. After a few minutes, Sophia sat up. Sorry, I shouldn't dump all that on you. You can dump whatever you want on me. We're about to be married. Might as well start now. She gave him a small smile. Married. That word still sounds weird. They went to a jewelry store downtown, one of those fancy places with security guards and everything displayed under glass like museum pieces. The salesperson, a woman with perfectly styled hair and a practiced smile, asked what they were looking for. Wedding bands, Alexander said. Something simple. The woman's smile got bigger. Wonderful. And when's the big day? Saturday, Sophia said. This Saturday? The woman's professional mask slipped for just a second. That's quite soon. When you know, Alexander said, taking Sophia's hand. It was the first time they'd held hands and he was surprised by how natural it felt. They looked at dozens of rings. Sophia kept gravitating toward the simpler designs. Nothing flashy or attention-grabbing. She finally settled on a white gold band with a small diamond. Elegant and understated. Are you sure? Alexander asked. We can get something bigger. I don't want bigger. I want something that feels real. This feels real. For his ring, he picked a plain platinum band. Simple, classic, the kind of ring his father had worn for 35 years. As they were paying, the salesperson asked about their engagement story. Alexander and Sophia looked at each other, realizing they hadn't actually prepared for this question. It was pretty quick, Sophia started. We met through his sister, and from the first moment we just clicked. Sometimes you don't need months or years to know. Sometimes you just know. Love at first sight, the salesperson said dreamily. That's so romantic. Walking out of the store with their rings, Alexander felt the weight of what they were doing settling over him. They'd just lied to a stranger about how they met. They'd have to keep lying for a year to everyone they knew. We need to practice, he said. Our story, I mean. We need to be able to tell it without hesitating. They ended up at a park near the waterfront, sitting on a bench as the sun set over the water. They went over their story again and again. They met through Lisa. They had dinner at Antonelli's. They talked for hours and both felt an immediate connection. He walked her home. He called her the next day and told her he couldn't stop thinking about her. They spent every moment together after that. By the end of the week, they both knew they wanted to spend their lives together. It was simple, believable, and only slightly embellished from the truth. What about the physical stuff? Sophia asked suddenly. What do you mean? I mean, married couples are affectionate. They hold hands, they hug, they kiss. Your family's going to expect to see that. Alexander hadn't thought about that. Right, so we should probably practice that too. It was awkward at first. They held hands, Sophia leaning against his shoulder. He put his arm around her waist. They practiced looking comfortable together, natural. We should probably kiss at least once before the wedding, Sophia said. So it's not weird when we have to do it in front of people. They turned to face each other on the park bench. The sun was almost gone now, the sky turning purple and orange. Sophia's face was lit by the last rays of light, and Alexander thought she looked beautiful. On 3, he said. Okay. 1, 2. She kissed him before he got to 3. It was brief, soft, and over before he could really process it. But something about it felt right, felt real in a way he hadn't expected. There, Sophia said, pulling back. Now it won't be weird. But it was weird in the best possible way. Alexander's heart was racing, and he could see Sophia's hands were shaking slightly as she tucked her hair behind her ear. They didn't talk about the kiss as he drove her home. They were both quiet, lost in their own thoughts. The next day was Thursday, 2 days until the wedding. Alexander's mother called. "Alexander, Lisa tells me you're getting married this weekend. I'm trying not to be hurt that I'm apparently the last to know. Mom, I'm sorry. Everything happened so fast. So come over for dinner tonight. Bring Sophia. I want to meet the woman who's stolen my son's heart." This was the test. His mother had been married to his father for 35 years. She knew what real love looked like. If anyone could see through their arrangement, it would be her. That evening, Alexander picked up Sophia after she'd gone home to change. She was wearing a blue dress and looked nervous. "Your mom is going to hate me," she said in the car. "She's going to love you. Just be yourself." Myself is currently a woman who agreed to marry someone she barely knows for money. I don't think that's the self I should show your mom. Then be the version of yourself who loves kids and saves lives and watches terrible action movies. That version is pretty great. Sophia smiled at him, and he felt that strange flutter in his chest again. His mother's house was the one his parents had bought 30 years ago, a nice colonial in the suburbs with a garden his mother obsessed over. She answered the door before they even knocked. "Alexander?" She hugged him tight. Then she turned to Sophia. "And you must be Sophia. Lisa's told me so much about you. It's wonderful to meet you." "Mrs. Chen," Sophia said, and Alexander could hear the nervousness in her voice. "Please, call me Helen. Come in, come in. Dinner's almost ready." The house smelled like garlic and ginger. His mother had made her famous dumplings, the ones she only made for special occasions. The dining room table was set with the good china. Over dinner, Helen asked Sophia question after question. Where did she grow up? What made her want to be a nurse? What were her parents like? Sophia answered everything honestly, relaxing as the conversation went on. Then Helen asked the question they'd been dreading. "So tell me, how did you two really fall in love?" "Lisa gave me the basic story, but I want to hear it from you." Alexander and Sophia looked at each other. This was it. The moment they either sold the story or everything fell apart. Sophia reached over and took his hand. "I know it sounds crazy getting married so quickly. When Lisa first suggested I meet Alexander, I almost said no. I'd just gotten out of a bad relationship and I wasn't looking for anything serious. But then I met him and he was different from anyone I'd ever known. He was kind and honest and funny. He made me laugh at a time when I didn't think I'd ever laugh again. And you?" Helen turned to Alexander. "What made you so sure?" Alexander looked at Sophia, at the way she was watching him with those warm brown eyes, and something shifted inside him. "I spent my whole life avoiding commitment because I was scared. Scared of failing, scared of not being enough. Dad always said I needed to grow up, take responsibility. When I met Sophia, I realized what he meant. Being with her makes me want to be better, to be the kind of man who deserves someone like her." He'd meant the words to sound convincing, but as he said them, he realized they were true. Maybe not in the way his mother thought, but true nonetheless. Helen's eyes were shining with tears. "Your father would have loved her. He would have loved seeing you like this. So happy." "I think he would have," Alexander said quietly. After dinner, while Helen was making tea, Sophia and Alexander stood on the back porch looking at the garden. "That went better than I expected," Sophia whispered. "You were amazing. Very convincing, so were you. For a second there, I almost believed you." "Maybe that's because part of it is real," Alexander said. Sophia looked at him, surprised. Before she could respond, Helen called them back inside for dessert. Driving home later, they were both quiet. Something had changed between them during that dinner. The lines between their arrangement and reality were starting to blur. "2 more days," Sophia said softly. "Yeah, 2 more days. Are you scared?" "Terrified, you?" "Completely." She looked over at him, but also kind of excited. "Is that weird?" "If it is, then we're both weird." They pulled up to her apartment. Before she got out, Sophia turned to him. "Thank you for tonight. For making me feel like maybe this crazy plan isn't so crazy after all. We're in this together now." "Partners. Partners," she repeated, like she was trying the word on for size. She got out of the car and Alexander watched her go inside, his mind racing with thoughts he definitely shouldn't be having about his soon-to-be fake wife. Saturday was coming fast, and nothing about this felt fake anymore. The wedding was small, just family and a few close friends in the garden of a boutique hotel that had miraculously had a cancellation for Saturday afternoon. White chairs set up in rows, flowers everywhere. A string quartet playing soft music as guests arrived. Alexander stood at the altar in a dark gray suit, his hands sweating despite the cool October air. His best friend Kevin stood next to him as best man, looking concerned. "You okay, man? You look like you might pass out." "I'm fine. Just nervous. It's not too late to back out. We could make a run for it." "I've got my car right around the corner." Alexander almost laughed. If Kevin only knew the truth. "I'm not backing out." The music changed. Everyone stood and turned toward the aisle. And then Sophia appeared. She was wearing a simple white dress. Nothing fancy or over the top, just elegant and beautiful. Her hair was down, falling in waves around her shoulders. She carried a small bouquet of white roses, and she was looking right at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Nervous? Happy? Scared? Her father, a quiet man with kind eyes who Alexander had only met 2 days ago, walked her down the aisle. When they reached the altar, he hugged Sophia tight and whispered something in her ear that made her blink back tears. Then he shook Alexander's hand with a grip that said everything words couldn't. "Take care of my daughter." Alexander nodded, suddenly feeling the weight of what they were doing. This wasn't just paperwork and contracts. These were real people with real feelings who believed this was real love. The officiant, a woman Lisa had found who was willing to do a rush ceremony, began speaking. Alexander barely heard the words. He was too focused on Sophia's face, on the way her hands trembled slightly as she held his. "Do you, Alexander Chen, take Sofia Rodriguez to be your lawfully wedded wife?" This was it, the point of no return. He could still say no. He could walk away, lose the inheritance, figure out some other path forward. But then he looked at Sophia, really looked at her, and all he could think was that he didn't want to walk away. "I do." "And do you, Sofia Rodriguez, take Alexander Chen to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Sophia's voice was clear and steady. "I do. Then by the power vested in me by the state, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Alexander stepped closer to Sophia. This was it, the moment they'd practiced for. Just a kiss, something brief and appropriate for the audience. But when his lips met hers, something happened that he wasn't prepared for. The world seemed to tilt sideways. Time slowed down. And for just a second, he forgot that any of this was supposed to be fake. When they pulled apart, Sophia's eyes were wide, surprised. She'd felt it too. Everyone clapped and cheered. His mother was crying happy tears. Lisa was filming everything on her phone. Kevin was shaking his head like he still couldn't believe this was happening. The reception was in the hotel ballroom, a beautiful space with tall windows and chandeliers. There was cake and champagne, a DJ playing music, people laughing and talking and celebrating. Alexander and Sophia moved through it all in a daze, playing their parts perfectly. Holding hands, dancing their first dance as husband and wife, cutting the cake together while everyone took pictures. During a slow song, with Sophia in his arms on the dance floor, Alexander whispered, "We did it. Yeah, we really did." She was quiet for a moment. "Your mom seems happy. She hasn't stopped crying since the ceremony. Happy tears, though. My dad pulled me aside earlier. He said he was worried at first about how fast everything was happening, but seeing us together, he can tell it's real. He said he can see how much you care about me." Alexander felt a pang of guilt. "I do care about you. That's not fake, I know. I care about you too. That's what makes this so complicated." They didn't talk about what she meant. They just kept dancing. Later, after the cake was cut and the bouquet was thrown and everyone had given their toasts, the guests started to leave. Alexander's mother hugged them both goodbye, making them promise to come for dinner soon. Sophia's parents did the same, her mother giving Alexander a long look that said she was trusting him with something precious. Finally, it was just Alexander and Sophia standing in the hotel ballroom surrounded by empty tables and wilting flowers. "So," Sophia said, "what now?" "Now we go home, I guess. Your stuff's already at my place, right?" Sophia had moved most of her belongings into Alexander's apartment over the past 2 days. It made sense from a practical standpoint and for appearances. Married couples lived together. The drive back to his apartment was quiet. The reality of what they'd done was starting to sink in. They were married. Actually married. For the next year, they'd be living together, sharing space, pretending for everyone they knew that this was a real marriage. When they got to the apartment, Sophia immediately went to change out of her wedding dress. She emerged 10 minutes later in sweatpants and an old college t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked tired. "Long day?" she said, collapsing on the couch. Alexander sat down next to her, careful to leave some space between them. "Yeah, but we pulled it off. Your lawyer said the inheritance paperwork will clear early next week?" "That's what he told me. Once it does, I'll transfer your payment immediately." The word payment hung in the air between them, cold and transactional. That's what this was supposed to be, a business arrangement. But somehow it felt wrong to reduce everything to money, especially after the ceremony after that kiss. "We should probably talk about rules," Sophia said. "House rules, I mean. Like schedules and privacy and all that." "Right, good idea." Alexander grabbed a notepad from his coffee table. "So separate bedrooms. That's already established. And separate bathrooms. I'll use the guest bathroom. You can use whatever you want. This is your home too now." Sophia looked uncomfortable with that. "It's your apartment. I'm just staying here temporarily. For a year. That's not that temporary." They spent the next hour establishing boundaries. Sophia would cook her own meals, do her own laundry, maintain her own space. Alexander would do the same. They'd split common area time. They'd both be free to come and go as they pleased. They'd check in with each other about overnight shifts or late nights out, just so nobody worried. But neither of them needed permission from the other. It all sounded very reasonable and mature and nothing like an actual marriage. That night, Alexander lay in his bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Down the hall, Sophia was in the guest room, probably also unable to sleep. They were married. He had a wife. It didn't feel real. His phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. "You awake?" "Yeah, can't sleep. Me either." "This is weird, right?" "Super weird. Want to watch a movie or something? Might help us relax." 5 minutes later, they were both on the couch, a respectful distance apart, watching some action movie Sophia picked out where things exploded every 10 minutes, and the plot made no sense. It was exactly the kind of mindless entertainment they needed. "See, this is what I'm talking about," Sophia said during a scene where someone drove a motorcycle up the side of a building. "Completely impossible." "Totally ridiculous. Perfect," Alexander laughed. "Your taste in movies is terrible. You're watching it too. Only because I'm being a supportive husband." The word husband came out naturally, almost like a joke, but it made them both go quiet. Alexander cleared his throat and changed the subject. "So, what's your schedule like this week?" "I've got day shifts Monday through Thursday, off Friday." "You?" "Meetings most days. I need to check on the startup. Make sure nothing's fallen apart while I've been distracted." They fell into an easy routine over the next few weeks. Sophia worked her shifts at the hospital. Alexander handled his business. They'd cross paths in the mornings over coffee, sometimes have dinner together if their schedules aligned, then retreat to their separate spaces. It was working. Everything was working exactly as planned, except it wasn't. 3 months in, things started to shift. Small things at first. Sophia's car broke down and Alexander started driving her to work. He found himself staying longer in the hospital parking lot, sometimes going inside to meet her coworkers. The nurses all loved him, said he was sweet for always bringing Sophia coffee. When Alexander got a terrible flu, Sophia nursed him back to health despite his protests that she should stay away so she wouldn't get sick too. She brought him soup, made sure he took his medicine, sat with him when the fever made him feel miserable and alone. They started having dinner together most nights, not because they had to, but because